For some reason or another, Stephen King novels have evaded me over the years. Fuck knows why, as the bookworms I know whose taste I trust rate him as an author, but in truth I don't read as often as I should because, and I'm aware of how pretentious this will sound, I prefer to write, be it a transcript, my memoir, or jotting my housemates' personal details all over the portaloos at every festival I frequent. The Long Walk is based on one of the many Stephen King novels that I haven't read and is set in a dystopian version of America during a year that was never mentioned, which is smart on the part of creative as it helps the movie maintain longevity. Anyway, out of the many applicants, 50 are chosen by lottery to take part in the titular event. There are many rules to this game, but in short, walk as far as you can whilst maintaining a speed of 3 miles per hour. Failure to do so results in a warning. You then have 10 seconds to return to the minimum pace. Failure to do that will initiate a penultimate warning, which, if not responded to accordingly, would prompt a third and final warning that, if you can't abide by, gives one of the military escorts the green light to scratch their itchy trigger finger. Victory is rewarded with a fathomless amount of money and one wish. I'm trying to figure out if I'd be tempted by the spoils. Sure, I would have to be placed in the position of the applicants. Blighty isn't in an oppressive state just yet, but I doubt I'd ever risk my life for money. The wish, however, well, that depends on how far my request can drift away from realism, as I'd happily moonwalk blindfolded through a minefield if waiting for me on the other side was a goblet of my fit Vietnamese neighbour's gooch sweat. First and foremost, The Long Walk is really good at setting the scene. It doesn't drag out tone establishment. The vibe is rooted by ways of a letter appearing in text form on screen, and before you know it, we're on the start line being told the movie's simple premise in a very efficient manner. The film pinpoints the participants' echelon, i.e. the protagonists, supporting figures, antagonists, and rifle fodder before the starting pistol commences the festivities. The characters are fairly generic. You've seen them before in various features set in post-Vietnam America. This can be partially forgiven as the actors do a very good job at portraying their roles and incorporating quality, empathy, and intrigue into otherwise unoriginal personas. There's no action as such, but each death scene, injury depiction, and moment of defiance is gritty and certainly comes with a level of impact. Even though The Long Walk has a basic storyline as well as a 108-minute duration, the pacing is fluent and kept the bloat to a minimal. However, the ending is anticlimactic and somewhat undermined the everything that came before it. The cinematography is adequate, but that's to be expected as the vast majority of the runtime is taken up by dudes walking along a road and chatting shit, so there's extremely limited room for innovative camera work, which overall isn't necessary here. Similar could be said about the composer's contribution. There aren't any orgasmic segments during the score, but when a scene requires audio support, the soundtrack shows up. So after I put on yet another clinic at the gym, I decided to jump on the treadmill and crank that shit up to 3 miles an hour in the name of satisfying some curiosity. I know, right? What an unrelenting commitment to the cause. You don't see any other film reviewer going this in-depth with their fucking research now, do you? Anyway, I found walking at 3 miles an hour on fuck all incline for a few minutes to be extremely manageable. No idea if I could maintain such a pace non-stop for over 5 days like our competitors. On reflection, it would depend solely on how potent the aforementioned gooch sweat belonging to my fit Vietnamese neighbour was. I'd certainly give it my all if it was scraped off of her after she spent an unhealthy amount of time in a sauna whilst mainlining capsaicin. Harking back to my opening paragraph, don't get me wrong, I do love a good book, but the only occasion where I've got availability to embrace literature is when I'm on holiday. At time of talking, I'm heading to New Zealand next spring, which is a 23-hour flight both ways, so I'll have the time. There would be no fucking point in bringing any form of publication along with me on my innocent retreat to Poland next month, because the projected nature of that expedition implies I'll only be interested in reading alcohol percentage, brothel maps, and the Polish government's policy on shadowboxing in gas chambers.